how's it going? It's a beautiful day. I'm out in the vegetable garden and I'm getting ready to start some spring crops out here. So I just wanted to show you my process, like how I'm prepping the beds and then what I'm planting in terms of both seeds and in plants that I picked up down at the garden center. So right now we're starting things like beets, broccoli, carrots, cauliflower, cabbage, peas, onions, leeks, Swiss chard spinach. I'm probably leaving some things out, parsnips. And technically I could have been out here a little bit earlier starting some things because we've had a beautiful spring, but I didn't really want to start anything out in the vegetable garden until we turned our water on because I didn't want to have to string a hose out and drag it all the way to the vegetable garden every time I needed to water those seeds, which would probably be about every day to keep them moist until they germinated. So anyway, I waited a little bit longer this year. So I checked the soil temperature. Let me show you that. So you can see that our soil temperature is at about 55, which really opens up our possibilities here. I love this thermometer because it kind of gives you an idea of when you can plant some things. So like up here at the top it says 45 degrees, you can plant cabbage, celery, onion, and peas. 50 degrees broccoli, and then the rest are kind of warm weather crops. So I did put 4 cabbage plants in the ground in a bed. You can see the little domes back there just a couple of days ago. I've got some onion plants and celery plants, and then the rest I'm going to be putting in from seeds. So let me show you the stack of seeds I have. Okay, so first off, I've got a couple of different types of snow peas, which I love, one of my favorite spring crops. This is a golden sweet pea, and I thought that this one would be interesting because it's got purple flowers and golden pods. And then the blizzard snow pea is just a variety I've never tried before, and I guess these seeds are getting a little bit harder to find, so I thought it would be fun to try that one. We've got parsnips, which this is going to be interesting. I love parsnips, but I've never grown them. And it says that we direct seed in spring, and then we should wait to harvest until the following spring for best flavor, which means that this crop is going to be in the ground for almost a year, or over a year. So I'm not going to plant a ton of these because I don't want to utilize that much space for that long. We've got some French breakfast radishes, which I always love to grow a crop of these. I love how they look. We've got carrots, which I grew this variety last year and I really liked them. I thought they were really good. We've got spinach, and you can see I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that variety. We've got a couple different types of lettuce. There's sunset and drunken woman frizzy-headed lettuce, and then some bull's blood beets. And if we swing over here, you can see I do have some flowers to pop in some pots in another part of the garden. But I've got some Walla Walla onion starts right here, which we go through a ton of these. And then I just got a 6-pack of celery. I also do have a bunch of lettuce starts, but I'm gonna plant these in pots, I think. I also went down to the garden center a little while ago and I picked up some bagged compost. So I've got it right here. It's a Whitney Farms planting compost blend. It's organic, and I'm going to work some into each one of the planting areas if it already has something in it, because there are some beds that have some existing spinach and cilantro. I'll just kind of work it in by hand, but I also did bring out the rototiller so I could till it into any completely empty beds that I'm planting in. And I do have also some bamboo teepees that I used last year, and these are for the peas to grow up, so I'm going to install those in a couple of the beds. And I brought out some fertilizer and some spray that I wanted to show you for like cabbage loopers and any kind of worm or whatever that you may deal with in the garden, because I notice a lot of questions about that. So let me show those to you. So there's the fertilizer, and you guys know I use a ton of this, so I will work a little bit of this into every planting area today. And then this is what I wanted to show you. So this is Thuricide. This controls moth larvae, caterpillars, leaf-eating worms, and gypsy moths. So for things like cabbage, this is really good to use. And it's also a natural product. BT is the active ingredient, which is a bacteria that's naturally found in soil. And it does not hurt honeybees, you guys, but it helps control anything that might be eating your cabbage. I haven't dealt with that in this garden yet, thankfully, but if you notice something like that, you would spray this when you notice a problem, and then you would keep up with it on a weekly spray interval to control them. So I have quite a bit of work to do. I think what we'll do is we'll just go one bed at a time, and I'll just explain what I'm planting and show you kind of the process. So we're gonna start on this far bed right here. It's a 3x4 size bed. There's nothing in it right now. So I'm gonna work compost in. I'm gonna pull up the irrigation first, work compost in with the tiller, and then I'm gonna put in one of my bamboo teepees to plant peas. It's like crumbly chocolate cake. That's what my mom always told me I should shoot for. So it's getting a little sunnier out here today, so I apologize if the lighting's a little harsh, but the vegetables will absolutely love it. And I've got my first little plot of snow peas planted. These are the golden peas, and I didn't mention that they actually create a 6-foot vine, so it is pretty important to have some sort of structure for them to crawl up, so I think that this bamboo teepee trellis will work out great. And then at the other end of this bed, I ended up with a gap of space, like I didn't center this thing quite perfectly, which is gonna drive me crazy, but that's okay. So I'm going to plant a little row of radishes at the end, and I realized that I only had about 5 French breakfast radish seeds in this packet, so I ran inside, and I do have a few of these Crimson Giants, so I'm just gonna kind of do mixed bag and plant a little row. And when I'm done planting the radishes, I'm gonna do the exact same thing with the other variety of snow peas on the other end of the garden. Since there's 3 sides to this trellis, I did split the peas up. We got 19 seeds per side. There's the other side. And I already planted this one. So to plant these, I just grab the seed and just pop it next to where I've got my irrigation line, and then just push it down into the soil about 1 inch deep. And you can space them apart every 1 to 4 inches. I go about 1 to 2 inches apart. And then with my extra bit of space on the end of this bed, I'm going to plant a little row of spinach. And on the spinach, I go 1/2 inch deep, and I seed them pretty thick because I like to cut them as baby greens. I'm leaving all of my packets in place until I get my labels made so I don't forget what I have where. I was able to harvest some spinach from last fall's crop, and it looks pretty darn good. Like, I'll be able to kind of pick through that, and we'll be able to eat it for a couple of dinners. That's kind of exciting. So the next couple of beds I'm gonna work on are this one right here, and then this same size one on the other side, and I'm gonna work on planting some Walla Walla onions. So I got this bed all prepped. I added in the compost, got it tilled, and then added in the Biotone fertilizer. I did add a little bit extra fertilizer in this bed because onions are such heavy feeders. I am starting with plants for the onions, so I'm gonna have to separate them out, and I'll plant them about every 6 inches. So I'll try to get a close-up shot of that. So you just gently work them apart. So I ended up planting 5 rows of 12, so that's 60 Walla Walla onions in 1 3x6 bed. So now I'm gonna go plant this other 3x6 bed the same exact way. Should we go plant some beets? So all the onions are in right behind me. I think in total I have about 120 in the ground, which is amazing. So now I'm gonna plant some beets, and it's up by an area where I seeded some cilantro late summer, and the cilantro still looks pretty good, and I think it'll kick up and start growing as soon as we get water to it. So anyway, let me show you that spot. So there's the cilantro. I just need to clean up the edges a little bit, but I mean, the plants look pretty green and nice. So yeah, some water and some fertilizer, I think we'll be in business. So this is where I'm gonna plant beets. We don't eat a whole lot of beets, so we don't need much. I can't really get my tiller in there very effectively, so I'm just gonna work in some compost and fertilizer by hand. Beets are done. Celery is next, and I'm gonna put that right in here, probably with a little bit of lettuce. So the only things really that I have left to plant today are the 2 lettuces, carrots, and parsnips as soon as I'm done with the celery. And I'm also going to just work in compost and fertilizer by hand in this bed because all of my irrigation drip tubes are all connected, and I don't want to tear these up because I think that would mean that all of these would come up too. We've got 6 celery plants, and then I planted 4 rows of sunset lettuce on the end here. And I think that will be pretty because the bull's blood beets will have a little bit of a red foliage, and then we've got green, green, and red. So I'm gonna work in by hand a little more compost right here and plant a little bit more spinach right next to this is last year's spinach, but look at how good it looks. Isn't that awesome? So I just wanna kind of complete this little corner right here. And then, there's Benjamin's chair. And then I'm gonna work on this bed right here, which I will probably till and do carrots and the other variety of lettuce. I don't think I'm gonna get any of these flowers planted today. So I cleared out the rest of that spinach packet right here, got it all done, and then I decided to come in with the tiller and work up this soil in the rest of this bed and plant the parsnips right here. I think this will be a good spot for it. I'm dedicating about a 3x3 area in the garden, which is a little bit hard since I know that they are gonna have to stay there until next year. But that's okay, I really like parsnips. I think it's gonna be a fun experiment since I've never grown them before. So it says to direct seed in spring and thin to 2 inches. So I've got 4 drip lines in here, if you can see those. So I'm just gonna do 4 rows and I'll seed them and we'll see how they do. But I did make sure to get down like 8 inches with the tiller, so it's really loose and fluffy, which is really important for root crops. And I'm gonna do the same on the next bed for the carrots. It also says right there that they can take up to a few weeks to germinate, so I can't be impatient. So the last bed I have to plant is the carrots and the green lettuce that I chose. And I don't know that I have enough seed to actually plant the whole thing, but we'll see how far I get. I will make sure, because there's nothing in this bed, to get it with a tiller first so that the carrots don't have a hard time, because I did have kind of a hard time last year. I had all my carrots right there, and even though I used the same compost in all the raised beds, for some reason it was super hard right here, and of course that's where I had my carrot. So this is the bed. Since there's nothing in there, I can pull up the drip lines, which they all need attention. I mean, look at this. There's some areas where they've been cut, and there are other areas where I need to add some too. See, I only had enough to come up and down a couple of times, so I need to finish the beds. And Aaron is working on turning on the water as we speak, but I'm going to go through with the hose and hand water everything I planted today. I just like to do that because then I know everything is really settled in nicely, and then the drips can take over after that. Done, other than getting everything labeled properly. I've got to go dig around and find my labels. I mean, it's pretty well buttoned up. There's only 2 beds that really don't have anything in them, so let me just give you a little mini tour. All right, so first off, we've got chives in that pot. This is one of the beds with pretty much nothing. There's just one thyme plant that I popped in there last year with some other herbs. I dug the rosemary out, which was right there, and it's inside in a pot doing really well. So I did want to leave some space available because you guys know how it goes. You visit the garden center and then inevitably you end up with something you need space for. And then I've got the 1 row of radishes here with the gold sweet peas or snow peas. I've got 60 Walla Walla onions in there planted today. This is the Italian garlic I planted last fall, and it's looking excellent. I think there's 72 heads in there. And then this is where the spinach is. So this whole patch will be spinach, and then we've got parsnips. Over here we have the sunset lettuce, the celery, cilantro, and bull's blood beets, my beautiful flowers. This is one other bed I have nothing in yet. I've got these pretty chicken wire cloches from Gardener Supply in there, which I'll probably pop over the cabbage once I take the domes off. And then in this bed, I actually had enough carrots to fill up this 3x3 section. And then the, this is the Drunken Woman Frizzy-Headed Lettuce. I had to read that tag again. I only had enough to do about half of this section.